Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Montakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this interview, I speak to Péter Fankhauser, CEO and co-founder at ANYbotics, which has created one of the most memorable looking robots in the industry. Called Anymal, or Anymal, it's a four-legged robot that gets around like a canine and has been installed at oil rigs and other industrial sites to help with site inspections. The dog-like robot was also featured in The X-Files, a classic American TV show about two FBI agents who investigate paranormal activities, UFOs, and other assorted weird stuff. We published an article about it on Robotics and Automation News if you'd like to check it out. For now, here's the interview with Péter Fankhauser.
Hi, my name is Péter Fankhauser. I'm a co-founder and CEO of ANYbotics. As a co-founder and CEO, I'm making sure to lead the company in the right direction, making sure that we have the appropriate execution of our strategies.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today. We're very pleased to be talking to someone from, obviously, the most senior person from ANYbotics, especially, but it's a very interesting company. As you know, these kind of robots that you produce, these canine, as they might be called, or four-legged robots, are very interesting to a lot of people, partly because of the technical challenges of building them, but also, you know, our website tries to concentrate on the commercial applications of robots, so we can go into different directions there. But let's start with the commercial aspects of what you're doing. Recently, there have been stories about new partnerships with chemical plants and so on. Give us an overview and maybe some specifics about the business side of your robot and business.
Sure. So it's really, the capabilities of a robot enables new industries to apply robotics. Traditionally you would have robotic arms or AGVs in controlled environment, but with a robot that has four legs and the capability to maneuver difficult terrain, we can bring digitalization and automation with robotic tools into industries that are lacking robotic support so far. And these, as you said, are a lot of industrial plants, difficult environments that consist of steps and stairs. And these facilities have been built, 30 years ago and still need to exist for 30 years. And as we speak, new plants are being built for human navigation. So it's really difficult to bring here robots. And so with four legs, we have the capability to build robots that are moving in these environments. And then we add autonomy on top, the capability to all by itself move around through these environments, and also then the inspection intelligence robots to perceive their environment and delivering data for operators to run their plants efficiently and safely. And so with this technology, we're targeting large industrial plants, from chemical plants, oil and gas, pulp and paper. We have cases where it's about rolling stock inspection. So it's really these large scale industrial facilities that we're working with.
Yes, we recently published a few stories on our website about your partnerships. One of them was with BASF. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's surprising that you've gone into this, because, as you say, these facilities are often complex and difficult places for wheeled robots to navigate, because they have lots of steps and corners and things. So this kind of four-legged robot is ideal. And as you say, it collects data, it inspects the place, collects data, and transmits that data to a central system. And this computer image kind of shows that here. But how many plants have you partnered with so far, I know there's at least two. There's a petrol company in Malaysia, and this is BASF, presumably in Europe. How many partnerships like this have you got going, and can you tell us a bit more about them?
Yeah, we have a few dozen partnerships in general in the background. And so we're not really pushing there the number of partnerships, but more of the depth and integration depth. Some of them are publicly available that we're allowed to use. And so those are the ones you mentioned, but there's many of them also, of course, in the background. These companies are still remaining, let's say, more in a confidential setting.
Right. And the other question I had about applications, I mean, we can see a video here about relating to the Malaysian sorry, is it Malaysian? I think this is the Malaysian company that you partnered. No, this is
This
BASF.
is BASF, the chemical company, the video
Yeah,
that you showed.
really nicely shot video, and shows what the robot's doing very clearly. One of the other applications that I noticed maybe a year or two ago when you started partnering with other companies is the possibility of using a robot like this to deliver items of shopping that people have ordered online, so deliveries to their door, to their location, an e-commerce kind of application. Is that something that you're pursuing, or is that something that's a little bit too different, shall we say, for a robot like this?
Yeah, so we did in the beginning at the company quite an explorative journey, looking at all the possibilities that these robots, the platform, can cater to. And there's, from ideas from forestry to last mile delivery, etc. So the particular one with the Continental that we showed at CES 2019, that was more of a showcase of how these robots could work in the future. There's quite a number of difficulties that today would rather make it more difficult compared to other applications. Certainly, when moving through unstructured environments shared with people that are not trained to work with a robot, there's certain security and safety aspects, and also the localization and autonomy of the robot becomes quite difficult. So what we're doing today is mostly focus on industrial inspection, because there we have more controlled environment. We can train people, and we have a tremendous impact on the operating expenses and the value we can bring there. So it's a technical overlap and also the business overlap that today we can already solve. In the long run, there's nothing, against moonshot projects. We're taking this technology, maturing it, making it also more accessible in terms of the business cases, and bringing those to different applications, such as the one you mentioned with the last mile delivery, and many others actually.
Yeah, the last mile delivery question is a big one for logistics companies, because that's the most expensive aspect, leg of the journey. So there are different kinds of delivery systems being explored, and yours four-legged robot may still have uses, and as you say, exploring these possibilities is always interesting. But you do seem to have found a niche. If you've got a couple of dozen partnerships with chemical plants or plants in general, that's obviously a potentially successful niche. And I wanted to explore what you said about how it adds value, or there's a savings to be made. What is the traditional way of them inspecting plants like this? I'm imagining human beings walking around a plant with notepads and making notes of what needs to be repaired or what needs to be upgraded or something like that. That would be what I imagine the original system that your robot may be replacing. And how does the cost compare with that kind of system?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're absolutely right. Today, in the traditional way, is to collect data. You have teams multiple times going out and essentially performing either visual inspection, they hear a little bit, or they take, let's say, a thermal camera with them. That's really the traditional way, which doesn't scale, and you have difficulty and consistency through that data. A couple of years ago, what the company started is to install fixed sensors, IoT, which work great in certain applications. They really not monitor the process. However, they don't scale. You always have one type of measurement at one location, making it difficult in terms of cost and also physically to scale those sensors everywhere. Another type of inspection that, so the last couple of years has matured, is inspecting with drones, where you can have access to difficult to reach areas, but mostly they're used in a remote controlled fashion. You still have a human in the loop being present, looking at data and remote controlling the robot or this drone itself. That has left still the work up to teams to go around multiple days. And this is one part as a complementary technology to the fixed installed sensors and drones that we can support here this process. In terms of the numbers, it's, certainly you have some direct cost with the personnel cost and the work that they do, but it's never really a trigger, right? What they are interested in is to gather more data more often in hard to reach environments. For example, if you talk offshore oil and gas rigs, you have enormous transportation and safety implications to do that. So there's a big underlying cost that you can cover by doing these rounds with the robot as a remote operator.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating technology. Let's move on to the technology part of it. You must be one of the very few companies that are developing this four-legged robot style. I know obviously there's another very famous company that does it. But apart from those two, I can't think of any. What made you think of wanting to go into this type of robot in terms of developing it, and what have been the challenges in developing it?
Yeah, it was, we are a spin-off from ETH Zurich, the Technical University, and I would say the entire legged locomotion started as a research and explorative project. Over the time, companies came to us and told us, wow, this is exactly what we need. For 20 years, we had the vision to bring robots on our sites, but all the current technologies don't work. So they really pushed us, and it was a market pull to actually found the company. So from the beginning, we knew where this placing the benefit of a walking robot would be, and always made sure that if there's a possibility to solve the same problem with a wheeled robot, we wouldn't even tackle it, right? It wouldn't make sense. So there's certain complexity involved, and also in terms of cost with a walking robot, but there's unique applications that you can open if you control that technology. In terms of difficulties, as you can imagine, it's really robotics at its hardcore. You have to build extremely performant hardware and electronics and marry that with extremely smart software as well. And then putting these two things together, there's very few, just off-the-shelf components that you could buy and put a robot together and would work, but we really have to dig down in technology. So we started building our own motors, our own motor controllers. Our software spanned from the very low PCB software, real-time control, up to the full autonomy stack and inspection intelligence. So building this robot is really a broad task, requires expertise in all different dimensions. And we're in a very lucky situation where we had the past 11 years time to do so. If you look at the generations of robots here, and now with a team of over 60 engineers and growing, also last year funded our Series A investment round. We have, the pathway in front of us to commercialize this technology successfully as one of the few companies with that heritage in the past.
Yeah, it's a fantastic achievement to have gone this long, raising funding. Now, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, you're on the verge of becoming commercially viable or relatively large company in this space. As I say, there isn't that many robots that do this kind of thing. Apart from plants and facilities like the ones we've been just looking at, which in itself is a big market potentially, so you don't really need to venture out of that space if you like. But I know you've delved in the commercial e-commerce last mile delivery aspect. Is there any other potentially appropriate or area of business or industry that you can see potentially where you could commercialize or apply your robot?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next big thing that we see tremendous questions from, and they really need support, is the construction sector. If you imagine building not talking small houses, but really buildings, large-scale construction sites, including tunnel building, etc. There, the infrastructure is just about to start and to develop. So it's extremely difficult to digitize these environments. So here, bringing again a robot with the capability to move through these extremely unstructured, complex environments has a tremendous impact to digitize these environments, to provide safety, to check if everything is okay as it's supposed to be, to do patrolling for security. So certainly the construction sector in its entirety is an extremely important and a market we're working with.
Yeah, construction is very interesting because I think somebody did some research saying that construction as a sector hasn't really increased its productivity for many decades now. So this, it's become in a way more and more expensive to build buildings, which is obviously very different to many, many other sectors of industry. Manufacturing has become cheaper, fewer people are needed, and so on. Construction hasn't followed the same kind of path, possibly because of the complexity of, for example, the tasks such as bricklaying and so on, which I know commercial skyscrapers aren't necessarily using bricklayers, but there are lots of tasks in the industry that seem too difficult for robots. But it's good luck to you, because I think that industry is one that does need to become a bit more automated, use a few more robots for a few of the tasks, because if it's becoming more and more expensive to build buildings, it just doesn't seem right or make sense. So yeah, that's one thing. The other thing I was going to suggest, or maybe bring to your mind, is the space sector. Somebody said something about the Mars rover would be better if it was a four-legged thing rather than a wheeled thing. So that's an area. I don't know if you've ever thought about space, but
we do.
yeah.
Yeah, us ourselves, we're not too engaged with the entire space sector as a company, but with our ties to ETH Zurich, with the university, we have many of our robots, and they're actually working quite closely, for example, with ESA. And they actually built a special platform called SpaceBock, a four-legged robot, where the idea is really, if you're on smaller space extraterrestrial meteorites or asteroids, you don't have to gravity actually for the friction with the wheels. So a four-legged hopping robot is an ideal locomotion method. So if you want to further explore that, there's ongoing work in that direction. We are more focused on the more business-oriented aspects that we can solve here today on Earth.
Yeah, you say that, but space is becoming big business. I mean, they're talking about mining asteroids, and they're saying rare earth elements that are very expensive to mine on Earth, mine and process. Might be easier to mine and process in outer space. I know it's a long shot, or long-term projects. But definitely worth pursuing, and you never know, something might happen sooner than you expect. These space agencies, if the space agencies get together with the rare earth mineral miners, something might happen very quickly. I know China has sent a robot up in space to explore some research projects related to it. So yeah, if you go into that, please do let us know, and we'll
do
cover.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll cover it. We love space stories. But yeah, what about, in general, what are the future plans for you going forward? Short-term realistic plans, as we might both agree, as they are, over the next year or two, or maybe 5.
Yeah. So right now we're really in the commercialization phase of a robotic system. We just launched Anymal D, and an entire suite of an end-to-end inspection solution. This is, quite a step for us, coming from a company, a startup, and then moving to full commercial and scale up. And so what we're doing is now really making this work as an end-to-end solution, and that requires not only building the hardware and selling to people, because our customers are not buying a walking robot, they're buying a solution to the problem. So what we are offering is really also, as I mentioned, the autonomy, the inspection intelligence. There's a lot of services that need to go around in terms of commissioning, setup, training, and also the integration with their data. Because if we collect data, it has to go somewhere. So here we're really making sure that we can provide our customers the best solution, and as a one company, as an end-to-end integrated solution. In terms of adding additional value, of course, we're always looking at software improvements. We have a stable hardware, but through software updates, we can give the robot tremendous more intelligence and more capabilities. So that's certainly one of our focuses, to have the platform out with as a lot of customers as possible and bringing them value through software, new capabilities.
Great, thank you very much for your time. One last bonus question. I remember seeing an episode of X-Files. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's an American, it's an American TV show about two FBI agents. They did a new series a couple of years ago, I think. And there was it was all this particular episode was all about robots, and the two agents become overwhelmed by robotic technology around them. And one of the scenes was they were in a warehouse. They'd run into a warehouse, and a four-legged robot was chasing them, or at least maybe one or two four-legged robots were chasing them. I can't find the video right now, but yeah, I just wanted to ask about the perceptions of four-legged robots as being more research projects than commercial applications. Obviously, you are now showing the commercial application of these things, and thinking of them as people have to got no choice but to realize that they're commercial machines, can be used to make money. But what's the perception, of the public in general of robots that are different? Whereas before maybe robots were thought of as weird anyway, but now the four-legged robot is one of the newer types. As I say, very few companies develop them, and humanoid robots are still in a kind of a still research phase. But what do you think the next step is? Are these things going to become commercialized? I mean, can you imagine a humanoid robot doing this at some point instead of your canine, in place of your canine? And are you developing other unusual, new areas of robotics at your company?
A couple of questions in there. Let me actually, if you go to the news section, if you scroll down and then maybe load a couple more of the old previous news further down. If you go up, sorry. There we go. That one at the bottom with the X-Files.
Which one? Left?
See Mulder and Scott? No, one below.
Oh, yeah. You got it.
Robot that you saw in the show, that was Anymal.
Oh yeah, I thought this is why I'm asking. You see, I didn't think it was yeah, I couldn't recognize it.
If you scroll down.
yeah, it was I couldn't recognize it because there we go. So it was an animal machine then. Right.
So that was a fantastic, a cool project there at the really early stages of the companies. In terms of perception, you're right that these robots are in the minds of people something new. But it's quite interesting that together with other companies such as Boss Timings, there's a bunch of Chinese companies as well that are building these robots. We are moving this market ahead. And what we experience now, it's when we talk to customers, it's not about, should we actually have robots or a four-legged robot? The question is, what is the price? How do you exactly do it? How do we integrate it? So in the perception of in the people, there was a tremendous shift of saying this is something futuristic to now understanding this is here today. You need to learn how to engage with it. So there's a tremendous market momentum and positivity and an excitement what these robots can do. Now, your second question in terms of humanoids, I think right now a four-legged robot is just massively simpler to do, and it's much more stable. If you think of offshore wind and rain on stairs, we're building these systems without the environment to have any adaptation, so they really need to be robust. when doing these maneuvers. In the long run, I can very well imagine also humanoids to take over certain jobs. Today, I think this format has really proven to be technically feasible and business-wise having great opportunity, and being able to support these companies with work they should really hand over to a robot.
Right, yeah. No, that's a pleasant surprise, this robot being part of X-Files. I found it very interesting that the X-Files makers, the creators, decided to dedicate one entire show. You must have seen the show, obviously. Yeah, so they dedicated an entire show to robots and automation technologies and the nightmares inherent therein, you know, people being overwhelmed and all that. That's probably a cliched subject for us to talk about, but and I'm mindful of the time that you've given me, so appreciate all your time and your insight. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.